Public and private streets. Can streets cause issues? Yeah, awesome. Good times with these. After mastering these dance moves, you should be able to describe the difference between a public and a private street. That sounds pretty easy, right? One's got a green sign, one's got a black sign a lot of times for the private roads. Can you go by the color of the sign on the street? No, I learned that the hard way. Understand how the street designations affects tenants. Know how to handle disclosures with landlords and tenants. And also kind of in this chapter, we touch on it a little bit, HOAs. Can HOAs create a problem with renting properties? Yeah, you kind of got to know the rules. You got to fully disclose it. We got some examples that we'll talk about there. So let me ask you this. When is a public road not really a public road? You ever run into issues like this? And this is a big deal in North Carolina. Here's a video I made a couple years back talking about this issue. Hey everybody, it's Mark Saunders with Saunders Realty. I'm actually out at a property here in Winston-Salem, and I have a question for you. When is a public road not really a public road? It sounds confusing and I hate riddles. So basically it's when a street is like this one right here behind me. Let me switch the camera around so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So this street is a public road that is privately maintained. And the way you can tell it here in Winston-Salem is they've actually gone around and marked all the street signs. So see if I can show you this one before it gets too bright again. All these yellow dots that are on a street sign, that's the city's way of marking a street that it's a public street, so you see the green street sign and all, but it's privately maintained, and that is a big deal. And the reason why, and you can see here right as you turn on this street, because it's privately maintained, nobody does the maintenance on the roads. So you can see this pothole here, and actually if I walk up the street and tell you a little bit about it, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So this could happen all different types of ways. Most of the time the developer, the person that put this neighborhood in, didn't build the streets to the right specs for the state. So nobody ever took over maintenance, but it's considered a public road. So you can see the potholes here. Somebody's actually being nice and has gone in and filled this one with gravel. But basically this road is just deteriorating. See the pothole fills there and everything. So why this is so important is that you got to disclose this if you're selling a house, because obviously this is important for a buyer to know kind of what's going on with the street. And the North Carolina Property Disclosure Statement actually has a question asking you if the roads are publicly maintained or private maintained. The reason that's important, most lenders will not want to loan on a house that has a privately maintained road for this reason here. You get potholes, eventually the road will become unpassable. And the bad part is you'll eventually lose city services on streets like this, because the city's not going to want to send trash cans or dump trucks and school buses down roads that are going to damage their property. So, you know, this becomes a really sticky situation when roads are like this. So basically everybody that lives on this street needs to come up with an agreement on how to keep the street up and who's going to maintain it and everything. So I have a listing not far from here, and this is a very important topic for most real estate agents. Actually, this was a topic that was in the 2016 mandatory update course, and so I just happened to pass by the street and noticed a yellow dot and thought I would shoot this quick video. So if you have any questions, leave it in the remarks below, or you can always email us, mark@srealtynow.com. Thanks. Any of y'all run into anything like that before? So I learned this the hard way, because the very first house we ever bought in Winston-Salem, we were in a neighborhood right outside the city limits, and we got annexed in. So when we got annexed in, I got a lovely letter, my property taxes doubled. So I'm like, great, well there's a pothole out here, you need to come fix it. And they're like, sorry Mark, those roads were not properly dedicated to the state. We are not taking over maintenance for those. And by the way, as that road deteriorates, we'll stop picking up your trash. We will no longer probably stop delivering your mail, and we'll stop running school bus service in your area. And then I found out that most lenders will not loan on that because property values will start dropping like crazy. So basically it turned my neighborhood into this, you know, black hole right outside of Winston that you would not be able to get mortgages on or anything. So I was the reason the yellow dots are on there, I petitioned the city to help fight this, and we actually won. We had to pay 70% to repave all of our roads, and then they took over the maintenance on them because then they were brought up to standards. But this caused a lot of research, and NC Realtors are actually researching this to document the streets throughout North Carolina that are like this. So really the only way you would know is by calling either the city or the state to say who maintains these roads. Are they truly public roads or are they private areas? I know 4 neighborhoods off the top of my head here in Winston-Salem that are just like this. And I'm positive houses have sold in there and it's not been disclosed. So it's something to kind of think about how that affects people. So the state will not remove snow most of the time for private streets. That's one of the first questions I ask if I go out to a listing appointment. I say, hey, if it snows or ice, does the city or the state come through and scrape the roads? Usually if they do, that's kind of a telltale sign they're keeping their streets up. If they're like, no, nobody does it, that should be a siren red flag going off. Okay, something's going on with the streets. Public school buses a lot of time will not travel over those streets to pick up students, and also it can affect your trash pickup. Streets are a question on the North Carolina disclosure statement. Okay, for a gold star and a high 5, what's the number? Anybody know? Okay, I was hoping to give a high 5 today, but maybe not. Number 30, does the property abutter adjoin any private roads or streets? Number 31, if there's a private road or street adjoining the property, is there an existence of an owner's association or a maintenance agreement? It's okay if it's a private road or not maintained. Do a little bit of research, find out if there's a road maintenance agreement, which basically says all the owners have agreed to chip in and keep this road up. If you have that, a lot of times you don't run into any problems with lenders or anything. But could this be a problem? Let's say a tenant moves into a house and you find out that later on the roads are not being maintained and they quit picking up trash service. Could that be a problem now that the tenant has to pay for trash service or has to do it themselves? Could be an issue. Could be an issue. So it's always something to think about. What's some things some property managers should do? Ensure potential tenants understand all restrictive covenants that could affect the property. Okay? Do you give tenants restrictive covenants on a neighborhood? Okay? Something to kind of think about. And also it's definitely HOAs. HOAs, which we have a case study here in just a minute we're going to talk about with HOAs and how that maintains to it. What if a tenant rents from you and they think they're in the country and they want to have donkeys and chickens, and they move in and then find out there's a restriction in the neighborhood for no donkeys or chickens? Kind of a funny example, but kind of needs to be disclosed to them. Yeah?
We just sold one of our listings. We'd handled it 5 or 6 years over near Kernersville. And it was only after we got ready to sell it, we discovered that there was something in the HOA about no more than 20% of the properties being rental properties in that neighborhood.
Okay.
I don't know if we just operated illegally in there and got by with it, or if we were under the cap. I don't know how they.
So it had a restriction in the covenants is that no more than 20% could be rental properties. So you've been illegally managing a property, huh?
Well, and I'm not sure it was that, but I know the attorneys for the buyers found that prior to the close, and they canceled the contract over it. We ultimately sold it to somebody else, but they walked out of the deal because of that.
Where do you see a lot of restrictions on rental properties? Condos? Townhomes? You see that a lot. Well, that's actually in the restrictions that I know a large neighborhood in Kernersville that has restrictions on rentals and over a certain percentage and then no more.
Yeah, you just mentioned the dogs, chickens, and donkeys. Guess what? Can't do that.
Depends.
Service animals.
Depends. Depends. Service animal chicken. Okay.
Peacock at the Charlotte Airport.
The peacock at the airport. Okay, y'all are getting ahead because that's a chapter that Pam's going to get to come back up and cover in just a minute.
Recently they had a pony
They had a pony.
on an airplane.
Pony on an airplane.
I saw a goose in Walmart.
A goose in Walmart. All right, y'all are definitely skipping ahead to service animals. My luck, I buy the airplane, the pony would have to sit beside me because that's just how things happen to me. Yeah.
We also managed one with the HOA wouldn't let any vehicle with business signage, no matter if it was a car or a pickup. It had the name of the-
He was in an HOA that would not allow any commercial van. You're skipping it. Did you read ahead of the book? No. He read ahead of the book. That's our case study we're getting ready to talk about. HOAs might not allow certain types of vehicles in.